Okay, here we go again. It is 6:26 on October 15th, Sunday, and I'm going to continue reading the Suriy-i-Haykal from the Summons of the Lord of Hosts, a compilation of tablets by Bahá'u'lláh. And it is my ambitious intention this morning to try to read pages 23 through 28. We'll see how that goes. Beware lest ye shed the blood of anyone. Unsheath the sword of your tongue from the scabbard of utterance, for therewith ye can conquer the citadels of men's hearts. We have abolished the law to wage holy war against each other. God's mercy hath verily encompassed all created things, if ye do but understand. Aid ye your Lord, the God of mercy, with the sword of understanding. Keener indeed is it, and more finely tempered than the sword of utterance, were ye but to reflect upon the words of your Lord. Thus have the hosts of divine revelation been sent down by God, the help in peril, the self-subsisting. And thus have the armies of divine inspiration been made manifest from the source of command, as bidden by God, the all-glorious, the best beloved. Say, the measure of all created things hath been appointed in this concealed and manifest temple, wherein lie enshrined the knowledge of the heavens and the earth, and of all things past and future. The finger of God's handiwork hath inscribed upon this tablet that which the wisest and most learned of men are powerless to fathom, and hath created therein temples inscrutable to all save his own self. Could ye but apprehend this truth, blessed be the one who readeth it, who pondereth its contents, and who is numbered with them that comprehend. So Shoshone, do you have any questions so far?
No.
Okay, so I'm just going to comment a little bit here. I love how first he says, don't shed anybody's blood, speak instead. Unsheath the sword of your tongue from the scabbard of utterance. But then he says, and I really love this part, he says, aid ye your Lord, the God of mercy, with the sword of understanding. Keener is it, and more finely tempered than the sword of utterance. And that's what I've learned. And most of the time it's better for me to keep my mouth shut and to just understand. Just try to understand. Now, the next paragraph, which I just read, it's a little bit challenging because he says, the measure of all created things hath been appointed in this concealed and manifest temple. Well, I think the temple that he's referring to with a capital T is Baha'u'lláh, the manifestation of God for this day. And he's saying that with the manifestation of God is all knowledge. So that would have been true for Jesus, for Moses, for Muhammad, for Buddha, for Krishna, for White Buffalo Calf Woman, for Quetzalcoatl, for the Peacemaker, and all of the divine manifestations that have come to every culture and every continent from the beginning of time that we may not know the names of anymore. that they had all knowledge. So this concept of the manifestation of God, we can't understand this as humans, because it's like an animal trying to understand what a human is. It's like they're of a different order. They have everything that we have: emotions, pain, suffering, needs. But they have something that we will never have, no matter how much we meditate, no matter how long we live. I think the sky is beginning to get light behind me. Is it? Mm-hmm. This is so exciting. I love when the dawn comes. And this is the dawn of the day of God. We're just at the beginning. Right now, the world is falling apart, but something is being born. Something beautiful is being born. It's going to take over everything. Many people have this sense of what I'm talking about, and many people are bewildered and terrified. And that's why I'm doing this. Because there's something beautiful happening. It's important to know about it. Something powerful that has the power to transform the human race. That's what we're doing. Every endeavor is going to start small. But if you have the vision and the commitment, it'll happen. So he says, so the temple, with a capital T, that's Bahá'u'lláh, the manifestation of God. And it says, the finger of God's handiwork hath inscribed upon this tablet that which the wisest and most learned of men are powerless to fathom. This is beyond. This power, this knowledge is beyond human ability, but we can start walking. We can start learning. And then it says, hath created therein temples inscrutable to all save his own self. Well, I admit, I don't know what that means. I'm going to guess that it means inspired human beings with the knowledge that he's sharing. But in this case, these temples that are inscrutable, to all save his own self. Maybe that means that the Word of God creates realities that will manifest in the future. Just like on the physical level, all of this technology that we have. This technology, really, it's pretty darn new in terms of history, if you think about it. Like up until the mid-1800s, progress was sort of going at a very, very low rate. Then all of a sudden it started going like that. Why? Has anybody questioned why? Well, Baha'is believe that it's because with the coming of Baha'u'lláh, who was born in 1817, an energy was released into the universe whose purpose it is to transform the world and bring us all closer together. Because this is the age of the oneness of the human family. That's what Baha'u'lláh brought. And being the manifestation of God, it manifests on every level. Physical, spiritual, every level. Okay, I'm going to go on. I don't know if we're going to make it to page 28 at this rate. Say, naught is seen in my temple, but and that's, again, Baha'u'lláh, but the temple of God. And in my beauty, but his beauty, and in my being, but his being, and in myself, but his self, and in my movement, but his movement, and in my acquiescence, but his acquiescence. Because the suffering that Baha'u'lláh endured willingly for the sake of the regeneration of the human race, for 40 years, prisoner, beaten, chained, exiled, poisoned, betrayed. It's beyond our capacity to fathom. And in my pen, but his pen, God's pen, the mighty, the all-praised, there hath not been in my soul but the truth, and in myself naught could be seen but God. God is unknowable. The only thing we can know of God is from these manifestations. They're, so to speak, God distilled in human form. What we can understand, it's really more the will of God that they embody. They embody the will of God for humanity. And that's what the Son of God means. It means the perfect embodiment of the will of God. But those who think that there was only one from all eternity to all eternity are blinded. Because God has never left his children alone. He's always sent divine messengers from age to age to educate all his children, whether they lived in Africa or Australia or the United States, which of course wasn't the United States then, or South America as it's called now, or remote islands. God has always sent messengers. That's why we have all these religions. They came about because these divine messengers came to these cultures and taught the people. That's why you see so much similarity in religion. And yes, it's true. Human beings have perverted it and polluted it and given it a really bad name. But that's kind of why they have to keep coming, to purify and renew the message for the new day. Beware lest ye speak of duality in regard to myself. For all the atoms of the earth proclaim that there is none other God but him, the one, the single, the mighty, the loving. From the beginning that hath no beginning, I have proclaimed from the realm of eternity that I am God. None other God is there save me, the help in peril, the self-subsisting, and unto the end that hath no end. I shall proclaim amidst the kingdom of names, that's us, that I am God. None other God is there beside me, the all-glorious, the best beloved. Say, Lordship is my name, whereof I have created manifestations in the world of being, while we ourselves remain sanctified above them. Would ye but ponder this truth? And Godhead is my name, whereof we have created exponents, whose power shall encompass the people of the earth and make them true worshippers of God. Could ye but recognize it? Thus should ye regard all our names, if ye be endued with insight. Okay, so this is a very challenging paragraph. Shoshone, you got any questions? Okay. Okay. Beware lest ye speak of duality in regard to myself. For all the atoms of the earth proclaim that there is none other God but him, the one, the single, the mighty, the loving. There's only one God. It doesn't matter whether you call him God or Allah or Hashem or Eloheinu or Adonai or what's that other name the Jehovah's Witnesses use? What is it? Jehovah, right, Jehovah. Doesn't matter. Because God is beyond. God isn't a human being with an ego. God is a reality, an essence. There's only one. And we reach out to him from our souls. And by the way, if I use the male pronoun, it doesn't mean that I think that God is a man, because I don't. God is not a human being. It's just a convention of language, which I speak the English language, so that's what I'm going to use.
I have a question about that.
Okay. Shoshone has a question.
Okay, so I just got a book by a New Thought Movement Christian teacher.
Hold that thought for a second. I'm seeing that my battery's low, so I'm going to go upstairs quickly and grab my power cord so we don't lose you. And I'll be right back. Hello. Give me 2 seconds. Okay, here we are. And I think I hear Shoshone coming down, so he can finish his question.
Have you heard of the New Thought movement?
I've heard of it, but I don't know anything about it.
So it's began in the 1800s in Massachusetts.
Okay.
And associated with Christian Science a little bit. And the idea of basically prayer being able to affect the material world. And it's influenced Oprah Winfrey's made a lot of money off of it. Like people today are publishing books based on it. Eckhart Tolle's involved with it. And so there's this author named Thomas Troward, and he had one student, and she knew Abdul Baha and Mary Baker Eddy. And anyway, I was just looking at his book, and he says in the book that all the religions have established that the self, that is to say the soul, and the body are actually feminine or female, insofar as the spiritual process is about acceptance and essentially about passivity
or receptivity,
sensitivity,
or response.
Yes, and the initiation or cause comes from
is masculine. Comes from God.
So that's why he refers to God as he, not because God has characteristics of the human.
But in some languages, gender is not attributed to God.
That's true.
So, when I first became a Baha'i, I wrote to the Universal House of Justice, and as I've mentioned before, we Baha'is don't have clergy. We have councils, elected councils. So we have councils on the local, national, and international level. And our supreme body is the Universal House of Justice, which is located in Haifa, Israel, because that was where Baha'u'lláh was banished to in his final years, was Israel, Palestine at the time. And I asked them about this issue of male pronouns. And their answer kind of blew my mind, because it pretty much every time I wrote to the Universal House of Justice, their answer would be something I had never thought about. And anyway, what they said to me was, you can change the pronouns or you can change your consciousness. And that just blew my mind. And I realized, yeah, I don't really have to change everything from the ground up, every little detail of everything. I can change the way I look at things. So it works for me, Cry it. If it doesn't work for you, fine, But it works. It worked for me. All right, let's. Oops, Could you pass me my glasses, please? Thank you. So, let's continue. Where were we? Oh, okay, so this whole paragraph where he says, he just proclaims, I have proclaimed from the realm of eternity that I am God. This whole paragraph where he talks about, so this is, I almost feel like I have to read it again. None other God is there save me. The help in peril, the self-subsisting, and unto the end that hath no end, I shall proclaim amidst the kingdom of names that I am God. None other God is there beside me, the all-glorious, the best beloved. So the kingdom of names, and I think we've talked about this before, the kingdom of names is this world, at least, where we name everything, right? In Genesis, Adam names everything, gives names to everything. So that's a metaphor, but it's a metaphor for the idea that we see ourselves as separate. So we each have to have our own name. Everything has to have a name. Everything is differentiated. This is the kingdom of names. So if this is the kingdom of names, that means there are other kingdoms that don't do that. Other kingdoms of consciousness. Maybe they don't exist in this world. Maybe we have to leave our bodies and, go to the next world before we begin to understand that. But this idea that we're the kingdom of names clearly implies that there are other kingdoms. He says, Lordship is my name, whereof I have created manifestations in the world of being, while we ourselves remain sanctified above them. Manifestations in the world of being. I guess that's all the differentiated things that exist, whether it's people or animals or plants or rocks or maybe ideas. I don't know. God has created all this, but he remains sanctified above them. Now, I have a lot of friends who, they believe that God is within them and that they are God, and if they just keep on following their spiritual path, that they'll become God. But I don't know anyone.
You have a lot of friends who think.
Yes, I do. I have a lot of friends who think that. I don't know anybody who can do anything really. Who can change the reality of the suffering in this world. Anyway, so that doesn't speak to me, but it speaks to a lot of people I know. What were you saying, Suriy?
Spiritual path are they following?
Oh, well.
They seem like very deluded people.
I'm going to choose not to get into that right now because I don't want to cast aspersions.
I mean, there are ways that yoga can be misused to create that interpretation that you can become God.
Yeah.
But I do know that yoga can be practiced without creating that impression. Even if one subscribes to the idea in the Upanishads that we are the sparks in the fire of God. I mean, each of us has a spark of divinity, or is it a spark?
Well, since you're bringing up this topic, maybe I should go into it to the degree that I understand it. My understanding is that God is unknowable and unattainable. And that when we communicate to God, we're not really communicating to God, because God is beyond human contact, so to speak. Which isn't to say that God doesn't have... basically what we believe is that whatever we say about God, it's not true because it's in human terms, and human terms are limited. That's basically our belief. And that because of that, God has manifested these divine beings, these divine teachers, manifestations of God. So in the Baha'i faith, there's this analogy of the kingdoms of God. So you've got the mineral kingdom with the power of cohesion. And then you've got the plant kingdom that has the power of cohesion but also has the power of growth. And then you've got the animal kingdom, which has the power of cohesion, the power of growth, and the power of the senses. And notice that each higher kingdom subsumes the lower kingdoms within it. And then you've got the human kingdom. We've got all those powers that mentioned, and we've also got what Abdu'l-Baha calls the rational soul. So we can reason and build things and create civilizations. But then there's another, this is what I've come to understand, that there's another kingdom above ours, and that's the kingdom of the manifestation of God. The manifestations of God have everything that we have, but they have something more. They have perfect knowledge, perfect understanding. They're perfect manifestations of the will of God. So they don't have, they don't make mistakes, let's put it this way. They don't make mistakes either in their knowledge or in their spirituality. They're perfect guides. And then you have the unknowable essence that's God. And that the human beings cannot become manifestations of God. Manifestations of God are created by God. And that's a very mysterious subject that I am not wise enough to be able to really expound on very much more than that. I don't know whether, I do know from my study that manifestations of God are manifestations of God from conception, and we Baha'is believe that there's only one life on earth, one time on earth to experience life. And I'll go into that another time. That's a whole other concept about, the afterlife. I'm not going to talk about that right now, I don't think. But so the divine manifestations, the way it's explained in our teachings is, it's as if God were the sun, and there was a perfectly polished mirror turned toward the sun, and the reflection of the sun in that mirror, that's what the divine manifestations are. And that we, human beings, reflect the mirror, the image in the mirror. Is that clear? So that we're reflections of the light, but we don't generate the light. The light comes from God through the manifestations into our hearts. And when we turn the mirror of our hearts toward the manifestations and their teachings, our hearts become illumined. And that beyond that it's the manifestation of God for the day in which you live. That's the one you need to know about the most, because he's the one that sheds light on the teachings of the previous manifestations. So for instance, in the Bible, there's the whole story of Adam, okay? And there are people who believe that, in it literally, there was really a snake, and the snake really tempted Eve, and she ate a real apple, and, we don't believe that those are literal, that those are to be taken literally, because for one thing, one of the teachings of the Baha'i faith is the harmony of science and religion. That if religion isn't in tune with science, it's mere superstition, which thinking people are not going to sign on to. Because God gave us a mind to use. He didn't give us a mind to suppress. So these things have spiritual meanings. And what are they? Now I lost my train of thought. What was I talking about? Oh, I was talking about the mirrors. So we're reflections of the divine manifestations. And it's important to know the manifestation for the day in which you live. That's what I was trying to say. because the manifestation for the day in which you live sheds light on the previous teachings. He explains them so that people aren't wandering in the wilderness of superstition, which is only going to turn off intelligent people from the concept of God. This faith, the Baha'i faith, is very attractive to intelligent people because it doesn't ask us to suppress our intelligence. Actually, it stimulates our intelligence because the language is challenging and the concepts are challenging, and we have to grow intellectually. We have to grow spiritually. We have to grow morally. We have to grow materially as a human race. We have to prosper as a human race, not as single individuals. As a human race, we need to prosper. So let's go on. He says, Lordship is my name, whereof I've created manifestations in the world of being. While we ourselves remain sanctified above them, would ye but ponder this truth? And we talked about that. And Godhead is my name, whereof we have created exponents, whose power shall encompass the people of the earth and make them true worshippers of God, could ye but recognize it. Thus should ye regard all our names, if ye be endued with insight. Now he's talking about the manifestations. Exponents, whose power shall encompass the people of the earth and make them true worshippers of God. That's the whole point of these manifestations. To open the door so that we can truly believe and worship God. Then he says, thus should ye regard all our names. That's capitalized, our names. He's saying we should regard all of the, when he capitalizes our names like that, he's talking about the manifestations of God. He's saying we should regard all the manifestations of God as exponents of God, whose power shall encompass the people of the earth and make them true worshipers of God. So, I know I said I was going to do a lot more, but we've been talking for almost 40 minutes, and I think that's enough for today. So, tomorrow we will go on. And thank you so much for watching.